Previously, I made a video in 2018 called the top 10 black superheroes of all time. And in 2023, I decided to redo it because I think I can do better in terms of content, narrating, editing. So I thought about it and then I said, okay. White superheroes are in abundance, starting with Superman's release in 1938. But the world needs black superheroes too, and that's what we're here for today. So I'm doing a new top 10 black superhero list, which will be dominated by Marvel and of course DC. It's a very high quality list, and characters won't be on it just because they're black. It has to be a good character too. I will have rules on how this list was compiled. At the same time, I'll put that complete list of rules in the description tab. One key rule though is this is for legacy characters that are at least 10 years old to make this list. I'll do another video in the near future about new black superheroes created in the 2010s and later. Without any further ado, I present to you the top 10 black superheroes of all time, presented by Comic Power. Number 10, NUBIA from DC Comics. Some people look at this character and think she's just a black version of Wonder Woman. And yes, she is from the Wonder Woman universe, but she's her own separate character. She made her first appearance in comics in Wonder Woman 204 back in 1973, so she's celebrating her 50th anniversary in 2023. She fights Wonder Woman to a standstill, and then she reveals herself at the end as NUBIA. After introduction this awesome, you would think that DC would be pumping up the character, but this is DC we're talking about. You just can't trust them to make a wise decision now, can you? She's a black female character in the Wonder Woman universe that can kick just as much ass as Diana Prince, and she's named after a real-life black historical civilization called Nubia that actually existed in Africa. So cool name, cool character. As I stated before, DC did practically nothing with her for 50 years. Remember the iconic Wonder Woman show starring Linda Carter in the late 70s, early 80s? Of course you do. It's got this sexy campiness to it that's completely irresistible. Well, there was an initial plan to put Nubia in this live-action TV show, and there was an action figure for Nubia made by Mego. And just a few handful of these actually made it onto the market, and it looks like this. It would have been cool to see somebody like Tamara Dobson, who played Cleopatra Jones, play the role of Nubia. But oh no, we just can't have that now, can we? So any ideas of Nubia being in the show was scrapped. And then for nearly 50 years, the character was barely even used. Basically, it's window dressing, like on the 80th anniversary of Wonder Woman. In issue 750, Oliver Couple did this variant cover, including Nubia. So finally, in the year 2022, DC actually started using Nubia. I mean, better late than never. And had her headline a 6-issue miniseries called Nubia Coronation, where she's crowned Queen of the Amazons. They also let her headline a storyline called Nubia in the Justice League. So Nubia is more than worthy of being on my list. DC just needs to use her correctly and more often. Number 9, Sam Wilson, also known as the Falcon. He's Steve Rogers, Captain America's right-hand man, first introduced in Captain America 117 in 1969. Sam I like my green suit and hat. His creation is credited to Stan Lee and Gene Colan. He's more than just a sidekick to Captain America. He actually co-headlined the title of Captain America and the Falcon for most of the set. He was briefly a member of the Defenders, and of course, he joined the Avengers as well. He received help from the Black Panther that gave him a harness that allows him to fly. The early version of this character had an empathetic and telepathic connection with birds. He got his biggest upgrade in 2015 with the all-new, all-different Captain America with this awesome cover where he dons the shield as Captain America after the retirement of Steve Rogers. So it's a mashup of both the Captain America shield and the Falcon wings. This is a fantastic series written by Rick Remender, who's also the creator of Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier. The character is played in live action by Anthony Mackie, who's done a fantastic job. He went from appearing on Black Mirror and battling Eminem in 8 Mile to becoming a superhero. That's a pretty cool career. In 2021, the Falcon was given the opportunity to become a lead in a Disney Plus show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which tells what happens after Captain America steps down and Sam picks up the shield, well, at least temporarily, because there were post-split problems that Sam and Bucky had to handle together, and it's a great show. They even introduced a comic accurate costume at the 3rd act of the show. I like what they did with the character in the comics and live action. I'll always be a Falcon fan. Hey, it's the Black Falcon. No, kid. Just Falcon. Number 8 is Victor Stone, also known as CYBORG from DC Comics. I've been a long-time fan of this character. He made his first appearance in comics in the monumental issue DC Comics Presents number 26 back in 1980. His creation is credited to Marv Wolfman and the late George Perez. He was included in the New Teen Titans title in 1980 as well, and it was a big hit. It's the same title that introduced Deathstroke in issue number 2. He gets his powers from experimental Star Lab technologies from his father. Because comics, an incident happens at Star Labs that kills his mother and mutilates him, so his dad turns him into a cyborg to save his son's life. Once he becomes conscious, he finds out he's been turned into a monster, and I don't know how he uses the bathroom. Victor already had genius level intellect, but now he has superhuman strength, stamina, durability, speed, advanced sensor weapon systems, flight, computer interfacing, nano regeneration, shape shifting, and portal creation. In other words, an extremely smart and powerful character. I'm not sure what they needed Robin on the team for. Eventually this character was upgraded to the Justice League. I mean, shouldn't he be? He's extremely powerful. The character has made numerous appearances outside comics in both television and animation, etc. In the live-action DCEU, he was played by Ray Fisher. a critically acclaimed stage actor who did a great job for what he was given. The character was scheduled to have a live-action movie, but we know how that went with the DCEU. Can you say dumpster fire? And now James Gunn is trying to fix it. This character deserves more respect than this. He has a very cool power set, a design, and a great backstory. He's the type of science fiction that could become science fact in the future. Maybe one day they'll do a live-action CYBORG project in the future, but we'll see. I definitely would welcome it. Number 7 is Eric Brooks, also known as the Vampire Slayer, Blade. The Dracula vampire story is one of those essential tales of folklore like Frankenstein, Werewolf, and the Mummy. They just keep getting repackaged for each new generation. Blade made his first appearance in comics in Tomb of Dracula number 10 in 1973. His creation is credited to Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. A man named Wolfman creating monster characters. That's just rich. The character clearly looks like he was influenced by blaxploitation movies, and I think he may have been inspired by the movie Blackula. It sounds goofy now, but this actually happened. A black vampire named Blackula. But Blade isn't a full vampire who lusts for the blood of innocent people. He's sort of like a human vampire hybrid who actually hunts rogue vampires. He's part of that Night Stalkers, Midnight Suns Marvel horror universe that includes Ghost Rider, Hellstrom, and others. He was a pretty obscure character, basically unknown outside of comics until 1998 when he headlined his own live-action movie trilogy, Played to Perfection by Wesley Snipes. It was a big hit and made the character become a household name, at least an African-American household. I personally give it credit for making the MCU possible because it gave Marvel the clout to show that they could make a superhero movie franchise that wasn't called Batman and Superman and still be successful. I'll talk about this in another video. If you don't see the link, see the description. At the 2019 Comic-Con, it was revealed that the Blade character would be coming into the main proper MCU, and this time played by two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali. And his rebooted movie series is scheduled for late 2024. They raised his profile in comics by having him appear in the Midnight Suns miniseries, another miniseries called Vampire Nation, and another series called Bloodline, the Daughter of Blade, where we get the first full introduction of Blade's daughter named Brielle, who clearly is going to take over the family business, and it clearly is going to give us a Buffy the Vampire Slayer type story. In the comics and the Wesley Snipes version, the Blade character is a no-nonsense, sword-carrying, stabby, blood splashing everywhere, no-nonsense vampire hunter. So his story is definitely a hard R story. So I'm curious to see how they handle it in the new version. And hopefully don't try to stuff him into a PG-13 box because he's an R-rated character. Here's a little trivia for you. The character is also British. I wonder if they're going to play that up in the live-action movie next time. Have him take a little tea time before he slays the vampires. Number 6, John Stewart Green Lantern from DC Comics. His creation is credited to Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams. May they both rest in peace. He's actually not DC's first black superhero. Characters like the Black Racer predate him, but he is DC's first black headliner, making his first appearance in Green Lantern Volume 2, number 87 in 1971. It makes sense that a black headliner would come out of the Green Lantern universe because they are basically space cops, and they are chosen by a council called the Guardians, who are always looking to find worthy candidates to make a lantern. So when they came back to choose another one from Earth, it could have been any race, ethnic background, religion, nor gender. It just so happened to be a black man this time. It's sort of like the Wizard when it's choosing a new champion for Shazam. I always loved this character, but this is DC, so they never gave him enough to do to live up to his potential. They made him the star of a miniseries called Mosaic in the 90s, but there should have been way more. His popularity and profile increased with his appearance in the Justice League animated show where he was voiced by Phil Lamar. This ran from 2001 to 2004, and of course the sequel Justice League Unlimited, which ran 2004 to 2006. So for a whole generation, he's the Green Lantern that they know. So when they did a live action Green Lantern live action movie in 2011 and it wasn't John Stewart, I was very disappointed. Nothing against Hal Jordan, but I really want the John Stewart character. The movie bombed because it was poorly executed. Unfortunately, there hasn't really been a full appearance of this character in live action beyond the Wayne Carter appearance in the Justice League Snyder cut, where he makes a cameo and he says, "Oh, sorry, I missed the fight, bruh." In saying that, the galaxy is infinite, and this is a very cool character. There's a lot more they can be doing with him. DC announced in 2020 that they were going to do a Green Lantern Corps web series and put it on HBO Max, and that way you could get John Stewart, Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, and eventually lead up to the newer Green Lanterns like Simon Bass, Jessica Cruz, and Sojourner Mullen. James Gunn's supposed to be in charge now over at the DC movie division, but it must feel like herding cats based on what he's got to do over there. There's so many stories that can be told in the Green Lantern universe, so welcome a web series as long as they make John Stewart the lead character. Number 5, Miles Morales, the new Spider-Man, and this character is a household name already, and he's the youngest character on this list, making his first appearance in comics in Ultimate Fallout number 4 in 2011. He first appeared in Marvel's alternative Ultimate Universe, and he gets his powers by getting bit by a genetically altered spider, which stowed away in ill-gotten goods by the Prowler, who's his uncle, who he went to go see against his dad's wishes. It gives him powers similar to the Peter Parker Spider-Man, but he also has a venom strike and spider camouflage. As you probably already know, the Peter Parker in his universe dies in battle, so young Miles takes up the mantle and becomes the new Spider-Man. He makes some early appearances in the animated show, which was voiced by Donald Glover, but the character was so popular they made him the star of his own animated film in 2018 called Into the Spider-Verse. He was voiced by Shameik Moore, who got his big break in the independent film Dope, and this is where he goes from a popular character to an absolutely iconic character. They used the Spider-Verse multiverse plot device to bring all of these spider characters together. The movie won an Oscar for Best Animated Film, and the sequel called Across the Spider-Verse comes out June 2nd, 2023. The character was created by Brian Michael Bendis, who also created Jessica Jones, Riri Williams, and Naomi over at DC. Marvel has successfully updated the Spider-Man character for the 21st century with a character who is both black and Latin, and brings the story back down to a more light-hearted teenage Spider-Man. Being that Peter Parker has been around for more than 60 years, they had to age the character up, and he lost that type of essence of being young, which made the character initially so popular in the first place in the 1960s when he was introduced. At the time I wrote this, there's no live-action appearances of Miles Morales yet, but we know he exists in the MCU because he was basically name-dropped by Donald Glover, who was playing the Prowler in Spider-Man Homecoming, in this deleted scene.
Hate this dude, man. Yeah, sorry, Miles. I'm not gonna make it. Yeah, I'm just stuck.
As you can see, he mentions his nephew by name, so I believe it's only a matter of time before he shows up in live action. See you at the movies for Spider-Verse 2. Number 4, Carl Lucas, also known as Power Man, also known as Luke Cage. This character has the distinction of being the first black superhero to headline its own title, making his debut in Luke Cage, Hero for Hire number 1 in 1972. In his original origin, he's a former gang member from Harlem, New York, who is framed and sent to prison, and because comics, where they just love to experiment on people, he gets exposed to a variation of the Super Soldier program, which created Captain America back in the 40s. And that's where he gets the super strength, incredible endurance, and the bulletproof skin. He dons the yellow shirt, the tiara, and the chains as a uniform, and returns to Harlem to beat up on pushers and pimps and drug dealers. His creation is credited to Archie Goodwin, George Tuska, Roy Thomas, and John Romita Sr. The creation of this character is influenced by Black American folklore like The Legend of John Henry and blaxploitation movies that were becoming popular in the early 1970s, in which over-masculine black men and over-sexualized black women became headlining vigilante action stars who took down the man. Unfortunately, since the character had white creators and writers, it made him sound like a not-so-smart, jive-talking brute. In one of his most iconic and hilarious storylines, he gets into a fight with Dr. Doom over a $200 debt. It's so ridiculous, I had to make a video breaking down the storyline. See the link in the description. The modern version of this character dropped the tiara and the chains, which were problematic, and they fixed his diction, and he sounds a whole lot smarter as well. He will always be linked with Danny Rand, aka Iron Fist. And in 1978, Marvel took both of their individual titles and just tagged them up together and just renamed it as one title, Power Man Iron Fist, which ran well into the 1980s. The character got a boost in his mainstream popularity with the Netflix web series Luke Cage. It was pretty darn good too. It was filmed live on location in Harlem and played expertly by Mike Coulter. At the time I made this video, they have not brought Luke Cage into the proper MCU, but I hope they bring back Mike Coulter to reprise his role. The character made his 50th anniversary in comics recently in 2022. I made a video celebrating that too, so see the link in the description for that. Number 3 is Colonel Al Simmons, also known as Spawn. He's the only character on my top 10 list who's from an indie comic, making his debut in Spawn number 1 from 1992. At the time I created this video, he's about 328 issues deep and holds a Guinness Book record for the longest continuous independent comic series. The character was created by Todd McFarlane. Todd was one of those 7 Image Comics founders that left Marvel and started their own company, under the mantra of creator rights that whatever they created, they would own it instead of the company. And Image would work as just a distributor and not owner of the actual IP. The creators were on. In his fictional biography, Al Simmons is a colonel in the military involved in very hush-hush blackout missions. He's killed in the line of duty, well, more like setup, and since he killed innocent people in his past, he's going straight to hell. But he signs a deal with a demon to send him back to Earth because he misses his wife so badly. But it was just a cruel trick because it's 5 years in the future. He looks like a hideous monster. His wife has married his best friend, and they had a child together, which he couldn't have with his own wife. The demon also sends the clown, aka the Violator, to watch him while he's on Earth. After some depressive brooding starting Al Simmons, now Spawn, uses his new power to become a vigilante, settling scores with criminals like child killers and organized crime. In the 90s, there was an excellent Spawn animated series on HBO. It's rated MA for mature, and Keith David does the voice, and it's excellent. There was also a live-action Spawn movie in 1997 with Michael J. White as the lead character, and quite honestly, it's not that good, and we've been waiting for over 25 years for a reboot. Jamie Foxx has been attached to play the lead in the reboot whenever it happens, but at the time I make this video, I'm cynical that it might not happen because Todd McFarlane is so hard to work with. I made a video specifically about that, see the link in the description. But Spawn is a fantastic action horror vigilante tale, and hopefully we'll get a live action trilogy of this. Keep your fingers crossed. Number 2 is Ororo Munroe, aka the Weather Witch, also known as Storm. She is an Omega level mutant, and she made her first appearance in Giant Size X-Men #1 in 1975. Her creation is credited to Lynn Wein and Dave Cochran, but I also give credit to Chris Claremont. In her fictional biography, she's the daughter of an American photojournalist and a Kenyan tribal princess. And her superpower is she can control the weather at will. Her parents moved to Egypt when she was a baby, but they were killed in a fight between the Egyptian and Israeli air forces, which made her an orphan, and she survived by being a pickpocket on the streets of Cairo. She eventually made her way back to her mom's tribe back in Kenya, and at this point her mutant powers had already manifested, so she was worshipped as a literal goddess of the weather. This is where Professor X discovers her and offers her to come back to train in America. She takes the offer, joins the X-Men, eventually becomes the team's field commander and a surrogate mom to new recruits like Kitty Pryde, and becomes Queen of the Morlocks after defeating Callisto, their leader, in hand-to-hand combat. For a hot minute, she becomes Queen of Wakanda after marrying T'Challa, and she's one of the Omega level mutants who helped terraform Mars and claim it as a new mutant homeland. This character, who turns 50 years old in the year 2025, has been universally beloved from the very beginning. Her contributions to the X-Men storylines in the comics have been massive. Her appearances in the X-Men animated show in the 1990s are iconic, so it was kind of disappointing to see the character so depowered and unimportant in the Fox movies played by Halle Berry and Alexandria Shipp. I made a video about my top 10 choices of who I think they should choose as the new Ororo Munroe in the MCU. Link in the description. The Storm character is a cosplay favorite. There's so many different interpretations you can do of this character. Classic Storm, Jim Lee Storm, Mohawk Storm, Storm Goddess of Thunder. I absolutely love this character, and I think I would run out of adjectives trying to describe this how much. Before we get to number 1, let's go over some honorable mentions, please. Misty Knight, making her first appearance in Marvel Premiere at number 21 in 1975. She's a former cop who gets her arm amputated in a bombing and receives a prosthetic bionic arm from Tony Stark and fights crime as a private investigator. Virgil Hawkins, aka Static Shock. This character develops electromagnetic powers after being exposed to experimental gas by the police. He uses his power for good to fight crime. He made his first appearance in comics in Static #1 in 1993 from Milestone Comics, distributed by DC, and he became a household name after starring in his own animated series in the early 2000s. Adam Bashir, aka the Blue Marvel, making his first appearance in Adam, The Legend of the Blue Marvel #1 in 2008. The character was a scientist who was studying antimatter, and because comics, these experiments give him off-the-chart Superman-like powers. He's a character that Marvel doesn't use enough in my opinion, and he was romantically linked to our next honorable mention, which is Monica Rambeau. She's gone by many superhero names such as Spectrum, Photon, and Pulsar, but she made her first appearance in comics calling herself Captain Marvel in Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16 in 1982. She's played by Toyona Paris in live action in the MCU, first appearing in WandaVision and following up in Captain Marvel 2, now known as the Marvels. The character is able to convert any type of energy on the electromagnetic spectrum. Jack Boniface, also known as Shadow Man, making his first appearance in Shadow Man #1 in 1992 from the indie Valiant Comics, which was co-founded by Jim Shooter. He's a musician who plays the saxophone based out of New Orleans. He's a horror-based character whose job is to protect the world from the dead side, which are evil monsters from another dimension. Think of him as Batman meets the Crow. Hardware, a genius inventor who makes a suit of armor to fight crime, making his first appearance in Hardware #1 in 1993 from Milestone, and in the same universe as Static Shock. I'm glad to see that Hardware and the other Milestone characters are being produced again. Michonne from the Walking Dead universe, making her first appearance in The Walking Dead #19 in 2005. The character first showed up in the Walking Dead TV show in 2012, played expertly by Denai Guerrilla. This character was not playing with that sword and became a pop culture icon. The actress that played her is also playing General Okoye in the Wakanda universe. Jericho Drum, also known as Brother Voodoo, making his first appearance in Strange Tales #169 in 1973. He's a sorcery-based horror character who appears in the Doctor Strange universe, and he became Sorcerer Supreme in a New Avengers storyline in 2009. At the time I make this video, he has not appeared in live action yet, but hopefully he will in Doctor Strange 3. Colonel James Rhodes, aka War Machine. He makes his first appearance in comics in Iron Man 118 in 1979. The War Machine armor that he's most famous for first appears in issue number 281 of Iron Man, and on the cover of issue 282. He's Tony Stark's right-hand man, and he's played by Don Cheadle in the MCU. And he'll get a chance to play the lead character in the Armor Wars. Black Lightning, this character got a new lease on life by appearing in a live action show on the CW, and played effectively by Cress Williams. He has the distinction of being DC's first black superhero with his own title. And Lucas Bishop, this one's controversial. He makes his first appearance in issue 282 of the X-Men, and first full appearance in issue 283. The character's official biography is that he's a native Australian, so he's actually supposed to be an Aborigine. But they consider themselves the black people of Australia, so I'm counting this. He's a mutant for the future where things have gone really badly for mutants. This character made a cameo in live action in Days of Future Past, played by Omar Sy. Hopefully he'll make it into the MCU. That will be very interesting. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I know it's been a long video. Now let's get to number 1. It really shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but it's always welcome. Number 1 is T'Challa, Black Panther. Just bear with me because I may get choked up because I have to talk about Chadwick Boseman. Without a doubt, this is the most popular and iconic black superhero of all time. He's actually the first black superhero in mainstream comics, making his debut in the Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966. Getting deep into his origin is redundant now because the movies are so popular that everyone knows it. He's the king of the fictional African country of Wakanda, the home of a rare precious metal called vibranium. He's endowed with superpowers through the panther god Bast by taking a heart-shaped herb. This character was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, but the rest of his universe was fleshed out by African-American creators such as Christopher Priest, who created Dora Milaje in Black Panther number 1, volume 3 in 1998, and Reginald Hudlin, who created Shuri in Black Panther number 2, volume 4 in 2005. And Ta-Nehisi Coates created the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda in 2017. The Black Panther has always been my favorite character in comics, just edging out Batman. And he's always had a cult following, but he became a mass media superstar after his appearance in live action movies. The actor Chadwick Boseman, who had done incredible work as Jackie Robinson in 42 and James Brown in Get On Up, was chosen to play the role of T'Challa, proving that Marvel really knows what they're doing in casting. The Black Panther stole every scene that he was in Captain America Civil War in 2016, and Chadwick gave a monumental performance in the Black Panther movie released in 2018, and became the first superhero movie that was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Chadwick also gives us great performances in the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and even did the voice on the What If episode of T'Challa as Star-Lord. Catch that on Disney Plus if you missed it. As you can see, I'm a big fan. I was even watching the Black Panther animated show on BET that was so low budget, but I loved it. Sadly, we lost Chadwick Boseman to cancer in 2020. Marvel had a tough decision to make on how to move forward, and they couldn't make everyone happy, so they chose to upgrade Shuri to Black Panther. Some of the key issues to get for Black Panther are Fantastic Four number 52, the first appearance of Black Panther and Wakanda; Fantastic Four number 53, the first appearance of his arch enemy Ulysses Klaue, and the first mention of vibranium; Avengers number 87, which is the full origin of the Black Panther; Jungle Action number 6 is the first appearance of Eric Killmonger; the Dora Milaje first appeared in Black Panther number 1 in 1998, and Shuri first appears in Black Panther number 2 in 2005. He was even briefly married to the number 2 superhero on this list, Ororo Munroe, aka Storm, taking place right in the middle of the Civil War storyline. Wakanda forever. Thank you for watching. This is one of my longer videos. When I talk about something I'm passionate about, I can't be brief. I have to go in detail. Be sure to speak up in the comment section and tell me who are your favorite black superheroes and how would you rank them on a top 10 list. While you're here, be sure to see a previous video that I made honoring Chadwick Boseman, where I salute him on his short but illustrious career. I also show a clip of him singing, which some people didn't realize that he could do. It's sad that he has passed, but the world was much better that he had lived. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and watch more videos if you already haven't. Share this channel with others, and rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman, a true superhero.